Aliens cried for help. They didn't know Deathworlders would appear. For centuries, the Zarians had lived in peace, cultivating knowledge, art, and technology far beyond most known civilizations. Their lives were measured, methodical, and precise. Every action was planned, every risk calculated. But now, for the first time in millennia, the Zarians faced something they could not control. It began with the forests. Elythra's dense green canopies, which had thrived for thousands of years, began to wilt. The rivers slowed, becoming thick with sediment and algae, while the skies turned heavy with strange, crimson clouds. At first, the Zarians thought it was a seasonal fluctuation, a natural anomaly. But when the first herds of luminescent creatures collapsed from unknown sickness and crops failed across multiple sectors, it became clear. The planet itself was dying. Elythra's scientists convened in the Grand Council Hall, a space of transparent walls that looked out across the slowly dying forests. High Priest Scientist Livren addressed the assembly. His voice was calm, but carried a weight that sent ripples through the room. "The indicators are clear," Livren said, gesturing to the holographic projections of dying rivers and shrinking forests. "Our ecosystems are collapsing at a rate far beyond natural cycles. If we do not act, Elythra will become uninhabitable within a single cycle." Gasps echoed through the hall. Zarians were not accustomed to panic. Their species was guided by intellect, not emotion. Yet even the most rational beings could feel the sting of helplessness creeping in. Another council member, Sorval, spoke next. "We must send a distress signal. It is the only way. Perhaps neighboring civilizations can assist us before it is too late." Livren nodded, his luminous eyes flickering with concern. "Agreed, but we must ensure it reaches only peaceful and intelligent species. We cannot risk attracting those who would exploit our weakness." And so, the Zarians began to broadcast. They crafted a signal unlike any other, a complex pattern of light and frequency, encoded with information about their planet's biology, climate systems, and their own physiology. It was both a plea for help and a demonstration of their civilization's intelligence. Across the galaxy, this signal shimmered like a lighthouse in the void. Stars passed by unnoticed as the message carried through wormholes and subspace channels, seeking aid from any who might respond. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of known space, a small human expedition ship picked up the signal. Humans called themselves Deathworlders among other galactic species, though most had never met one. The name came from the planets they called home, harsh, unforgiving worlds filled with storms, predators, and toxic environments. To survive there, humans had learned to adapt, improvise, and endure. Commander Rhea Kor, the human mission leader, frowned as the signal appeared on her ship's navigation console. "It's a distress call," she said, pointing to the glowing pattern. "Looks like it's coming from Elythra. Life signs are present. Some species is in trouble." Her crew, seasoned Deathworlders used to danger, gathered around. Their expressions were calm, almost casual, but their minds were alert. They had trained for this. The humans' biology allowed them to withstand extreme conditions. Their technology was versatile, and their instincts for survival were unparalleled. Lieutenant Varn, her second-in-command, studied the data. "Atmosphere is breathable. Gravity slightly lighter than standard, but that's fine. Terrain looks rugged. We might be dealing with something like a predator-rich planet or worse. Still, humans are built for this. We can handle it." Commander Kor smiled faintly. "Then we go. Let's see what's crying for help." Back on Elythra, the Zarians watched the stars anxiously. Their sensors detected the approaching ship, but they could not fathom what they were about to face. The distress call had gone out seeking intelligence, but intelligence alone would not define the species that would respond. Elythra had never seen beings like humans, and the Zarians could not imagine what their help would truly mean. The humans entered Elythra's atmosphere in sleek drop pods, cutting through the crimson clouds and violent winds. The Zarians observed, their sensors picking up the humans' incredible resistance to heat, pressure, and atmospheric turbulence. The pods landed smoothly near one of the dying forests. Within minutes, humans had exited, fully armored in exosuits that allowed them to move freely despite the hazards. Livren's voice was trembling, though he tried to maintain composure. What manner of beings are these? They withstand conditions we cannot survive for more than minutes. They move with confidence in the storms themselves." One human stepped forward, scanning the environment with small devices that pulsed with data. Commander Kor looked up at the Zarian observers, speaking through a translator device that converted human sounds into Zarian frequencies. "We received your distress signal," she said calmly. "We will help, but first we need to understand the dangers directly." The Zarians were taken aback. Their civilization emphasized caution, deliberation, and the avoidance of direct risk. Yet here was a species ignoring the planet's lethal hazards entirely. Trees with corrosive sap bent under windstorms, rivers boiled from geothermal heat, and poisonous creatures lurked in shadows. But the humans moved as if they were on solid, safe ground. Sorval whispered to Livrin, "They are impossible. They should not survive this." Livrin could only nod. "It seems they are made for it." Humans wasted no time. They began taking samples of the soil, testing water quality, and tracing the patterns of environmental collapse. Their equipment was rugged but effective, designed for adaptability rather than precision perfection. Every human action was deliberate yet flexible, responding to the planet's unpredictability rather than trying to force it into controlled parameters. Meanwhile, Zarian scientists hovered above in observation platforms, recording every movement. They had never seen survival strategies executed with such efficiency, such confidence. It was not brute force alone. It was intelligence, adaptability, and courage combined. Hours passed, and humans worked tirelessly, moving from one dangerous area to another. Where the Zarians would have delayed for weeks to analyze and prepare, humans acted immediately, learning through trial, observation, and instinct. A sudden tremor shook the forest. Trees cracked, and a swarm of predatory creatures emerged from the shadows, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans. The Zarians gasped in horror. In their history, such predators had wiped out entire settlements before any rescue could arrive. The humans, however, did not panic. Commander Kor signaled with hand gestures, and her team scattered strategically. Using simple devices, traps, and environmental awareness, they began redirecting the predators away from their positions. Some humans engaged directly, dodging and luring creatures with skill that was almost superhuman to the Zarians' eyes. Livrin's voice trembled in disbelief. They are not afraid. They face death without hesitation. How is this possible?" Sorval could only shake her head. "These Deathworlders, they are unlike anything we have ever known." The predators were repelled without a single human casualty. Some humans had minor scratches, but nothing life-threatening. The Zarians realized for the first time that intelligence alone did not define a civilization's strength. Survival instinct, courage, adaptability, these were equally vital. Commander Kor turned to scan the horizon. "This planet is failing," she said. "We need to act quickly before it gets worse. First, we stabilize key areas, then we can address the root cause of the collapse." Livrin felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Fear, because the humans were wild, unpredictable, and terrifyingly capable. Hope, because for the first time he believed that Elithra's survival might not be impossible. As night fell, the twin moons rose over the dying forests. Humans worked under the dim light, their exosuits glowing faintly. The Zarians observed in silence. They had sent a distress signal hoping for help, but they had not expected beings like this. Creatures hardened by deathworlds, unflinching in the face of danger, and utterly determined to save a planet they had never known. And somewhere deep in the shadows, a new understanding began to form in Livrin's mind. Help had arrived, but this help was not what they had imagined. It was stronger, faster, and far more dangerous than any ally they had ever hoped for. The night ended with humans setting up protective perimeters and beginning environmental scans. The Zarians, still watching, whispered among themselves, realizing that their world had just been introduced to a force unlike any they had ever encountered. A force that did not fear death, did not bow to danger, and would fight to survive no matter the odds. In the darkness of Elithra's forests, the humans paused briefly. Commander Kor looked up at the sky, her mind already planning the next steps. "We can fix this, but we'll need time and we'll need to take risks the locals would never consider." Her team nodded. Deathworlders always embraced the unknown, always adapted. And for Elithra, that might be the only hope it had left. The first part of the story ended with the Zarians staring at the humans with a mix of awe and fear. They had called for help. And now help had arrived, help they could barely understand. The dawn on Elythra broke with a muted glow, the twin suns painting the skies in pale orange and silver. The forests, once vibrant, now shivered in the cold wind, their leaves brittle and cracked. Rivers meandered sluggishly, choked with sediment. The Zarians watched anxiously from observation platforms, their luminescent forms hovering just above the treetops. The humans were already awake, moving with quiet efficiency. Commander Riakor checked her team's equipment, ensuring sensors, exosuits, and communication arrays were functioning. Unlike the Zarians, humans did not require hours of ritual or deliberation to begin their work. Their movements were instinctive, trained for harsh worlds. Lieutenant Varn approached the edge of a shallow ravine. "The water here is toxic," he said, dipping a sensor into the sluggish river. "Not fatal, but it would make your species very sick. We'll need filtration points if the locals are to survive this." Livrin and Sorval, hovering nearby in their protective energy fields, gasped. "Filtration points?" Sorval asked. "You mean you can cleanse the rivers?" Commander Kor nodded. "It's part of survival. Step 1, stabilize the basics. Step 2, address the root cause of the collapse." She glanced toward the dying forest. "This won't be easy, but we've dealt with worse." A rustle came from nearby. A group of Elythra's native creatures, long thought docile, now appeared pale, skeletal, and wild-eyed. They moved with jerky motions, obviously sick from the collapsing ecosystem. Some approached the humans cautiously. Varn knelt, scanning them with a portable analyzer. "They're malnourished, yes, but resistant to minor toxins. They'll recover if the water and vegetation stabilize. Step 1, save the food chain." Livrin's mind raced. The Zarians were accustomed to careful interventions, long studies before touching any living thing. Humans, in contrast, approached every element with a mix of precision and immediate action. Within minutes, they had begun treating water sources, relocating creatures to safer streams, and mapping zones that could naturally replenish life. The Zarians watched, astonished. Every human movement was calculated, yet flexible. They acted quickly, adjusting plans as conditions changed. Where the Zarians would have spent cycles debating risks, humans simply observed, adapted, and moved. Suddenly, the forest quaked with a low, vibrating roar. From the shadows emerged a pack of predatory creatures, larger and more dangerous than any humans or Zarians had seen. Their scales shimmered in dark red and green, eyes glinting with hunger. They moved with a silent, deadly grace, their claws digging into the soft soil. The Zarians froze. Their scanners predicted total annihilation if the predators attacked. Even a single creature could wipe out dozens of the fragile native species, or worse, threaten the humans themselves. Commander Kor did not hesitate. "Positions," she said calmly. Her team scattered strategically, moving with fluid precision. Each member had a role, each movement designed to control the environment rather than just fight the predators. Varn tossed a small device onto the ground. It emitted a high-frequency pulse, confusing the predators' senses. Several creatures turned, disoriented, while others lunged, but were immediately caught in temporary force traps designed by the humans. Livrin's luminescent eyes widened. "They are controlling the predators." "They are not afraid," Kor's voice came through the translator. "We are not here to kill, we are here to protect. Stay calm, observe, and we will neutralize the threat without unnecessary loss." Minutes passed. Humans guided the predators away from endangered creatures, carefully avoiding harm. When one creature attempted to strike, a human leaped into the path, using a combination of precise strikes and environmental tactics to redirect it. No predator was killed unnecessarily. The Zarians whispered among themselves. "They are artisans of survival," Sorval said. "They treat danger as a tool, not as a terror." Once the predators retreated into the dense forest, humans returned to their work. They set up monitoring points along the rivers, installed filtration systems, and even began planting fast-growing vegetation to stabilize the soil. All this was done in hours, whereas the Zarians estimated it would take them months to accomplish the same. Livrin finally spoke aloud. "We sent a call for help, but we did not know such beings would come. They do not fear death, they do not hesitate, they adapt instantly." Kor approached the observation platform, her exosuit gleaming in the weak sunlight. "Your species is intelligent," she said through the translator. "But intelligence alone does not guarantee survival. Adaptation and courage are equally important. We'll need both if this planet is to recover." The Zarians blinked. Adaptation, courage. These concepts were foreign to them. Their entire culture emphasized calculation, deliberation, and perfection. Humans thrived in chaos and danger, qualities the Zarians rarely practiced. Hours later, as the twin suns dipped lower, humans surveyed a collapsed section of the forest. Soil erosion had exposed the roots of massive trees, and smaller creatures had nowhere to hide. "Plant barriers here," Core instructed, pointing to areas where quick vegetation could stabilize the soil. "Create small ponds there, redirect the weak water streams, give these creatures shelter." Her team moved swiftly, using lightweight tools, environmental sensors, and portable life support drones. In a few hours, the area was partially restored. Sick creatures began returning cautiously to the streams, exploring the protective barriers the humans had built. The Zarians observed silently. Never had they seen intervention executed with such efficiency. Their methods were slow, careful, and always at risk of failure. Humans acted with speed, confidence, and ingenuity. As night fell, a low hum resonated through the dying forest. The humans paused, scanning the area. Deep in the shadows, something larger stirred, a creature buried beneath layers of debris disturbed by the day's activity. Its eyes glowed faintly red. Varn adjusted his sensors. Not native to this region. Possibly displaced by environmental collapse, could be dangerous. Commander Core nodded. "Then we prepare, but cautiously. We will not provoke it, but we will not retreat either. Stand ready." The Zarians shivered at the idea of a creature unknown to them. To humans, it was just another challenge. In a calm, almost casual manner, they activated protective measures and began tracking the creature's movements, analyzing patterns, and predicting its behavior. Minutes later, the creature emerged. Towering over humans, covered in thick, reflective scales and moving with a silent menace, it seemed unstoppable. The Zarians gasped, expecting immediate disaster. Humans, however, did not flinch. Core gestured to her team. Small, bright traps were deployed, creating temporary barriers. When the creature lunged, humans redirected it, using light, sound, and precise movement. The predator, confused and frustrated, eventually retreated back into the forest. Not a single human was harmed. Livrin finally whispered, almost to himself, "They face death and survive, without fear, without hesitation. These humans are extraordinary." The night grew colder. Humans set up perimeter sensors and prepared for further observation. They moved tirelessly, treating injuries of small creatures, stabilizing soil, and repairing broken vegetation structures. The Zarians watched in awe, realizing that their world's survival might not depend on technology alone, but on the sheer resilience and ingenuity of these Deathworlders. Commander Core looked toward the stars, speaking softly to herself. "This planet has potential. But we'll need to act fast. Nature will not wait, and neither will the consequences of neglect." The humans worked through the night, their exosuits glowing faintly, casting soft light on the fragile forests. The Zarians, observing from above, felt a strange mix of awe, relief, and fear. These humans were unlike any species they had encountered, forces of life hardened by death, able to endure what no other being could. By dawn, the immediate threats had been mitigated. Rivers flowed slightly clearer, some vegetation had been stabilized, and predators were temporarily contained. Small native creatures moved cautiously back into safer areas. The Zarians realized that, for the first time in months, hope returned to Elithra. Livrin turned to Sorval, his voice heavy with thought. "We sent for help and they arrived, but their way, it is not like ours. It is raw, unyielding, fearless. Perhaps this is the only hope our planet has left." Sorval nodded, watching the humans through the observation lens. "We wanted aid, but these humans are more than aid. They are survival itself." And so, as Elithra's forest shivered under the light of twin suns, humans continued their work. The Zarians understood that their planet had been introduced to beings unlike any they had known. Beings who faced danger not with fear, but with action. Beings whose strength lay not just in technology or intellect, but in courage, adaptability, and the indomitable will to survive. For the first time in many cycles, the Zarians felt that perhaps, just perhaps, Elithra might live. The sun rose over Elithra, casting pale gold light across the recovering forests. The Zarians watched from their observation platforms, their bioluminescent forms flickering with anticipation. Humans had been working tirelessly for 2 cycles, stabilizing the rivers, replanting vegetation and tending to the sick creatures. For the first time in centuries, the forest seemed to breathe again, but new threats were emerging. Commander Rhea Kor stood on the edge of a rocky ridge, scanning the horizon through her visor. "We've stabilized the immediate area," she said. "But this planet's collapse is deeper than the surface. We need to find the root cause, underground, in the soil, in the water systems, and in the energy flows of the planet itself." Lieutenant Varn joined her, holding a portable environmental analyzer. "There are pockets of instability beneath the forest floor. Collapsed caves, toxic gas leaks, and soil erosion combined with underground predator activity. It's a network problem. Fixing one part won't save the whole." The Zarians, observing remotely, whispered among themselves. They do not fear danger, they go straight to it," said Sorval, his voice tinged with disbelief. "We would spend cycles preparing, and even then we might fail." Livrin nodded. "Humans do not think like us. They act, and their survival instincts guide them." The humans moved into a canyon that had been carved by centuries of erosion. Jagged rocks and unstable soil made each step risky. Sharp winds whipped through the canyon, sending dust and debris into the air. The Zarians hovered above, unable to follow closely due to the unstable atmosphere and lethal environmental hazards. "Stay close," Kor instructed. "Follow the sensors and trust your instincts. The terrain is unstable, but we can navigate it safely if we adapt." As they advanced, a tremor shook the canyon walls. Rocks shifted, creating a minor landslide. Humans did not panic. They adjusted their positions, using specialized tools to anchor themselves and redirect falling debris. Where Zarians would have frozen, waiting for perfect conditions, humans acted instinctively. Every movement was precise, measured, and adaptable. From the shadows of the canyon emerged a group of predators, more aggressive than any encountered before. Their scales shimmered black under Elithra's sunlight, and their claws tore into the rocks as they advanced. The humans paused briefly, analyzing their movements. Kor gestured, and the team fanned out. Some humans placed small traps and sound emitters to confuse the predators. Others used the environment to their advantage, creating narrow choke points and redirecting the creatures into safer zones away from the canyon. The Zarians watched in amazement. "They do not just fight," Sorval whispered. "They control the battlefield. They manipulate the environment as part of their strategy." A predator lunged at Lieutenant Varn. With lightning reflexes, he sidestepped, using the creature's momentum to send it tumbling into a trap. Another predator roared, but humans moved in perfect coordination, using lights, sounds, and physical barriers to subdue it without killing it. Livrin's eyes widened. "These beings, they are artists of survival. They do not seek glory or dominance. They seek balance and efficiency. They respect life, yet they survive at any cost." Once the predators were contained, humans resumed their work. They set up monitoring points along underground water streams, measuring toxins and rerouting unstable flows. They reinforced weakened soil structures and even began planting specially engineered vegetation to absorb excess toxins and stabilize erosion. The Zarians observed the humans' techniques closely. They had never imagined survival could be taught as a combination of instinct, analysis, and action. Every human move was calculated but flexible, precise but adaptable. Hours passed. The humans discovered a network of underground tunnels, long abandoned and filled with gas pockets and dangerous fungi. Kor turned to her team. "We need to explore the tunnels carefully. There may be creatures or hazards hidden inside that threaten the entire forest." The humans donned protective masks and advanced into the tunnels. Their lights pierced the darkness, revealing walls covered in luminescent fungi and evidence of past predator activity. "Gas pockets ahead," Varn warned. "We'll need to vent them before proceeding." With small, portable devices, humans safely vented the toxic pockets, redirecting the gas into harmless dispersion zones. As they advanced deeper, they encountered massive predators lurking in the shadows. Unlike surface predators, these creatures were adapted to the underground environment, agile, cunning, and extremely dangerous. The Zarians gasped. "They cannot survive this," Sorval whispered. "No being could survive underground with these predators." But humans did. Commander Kor and her team moved with coordinated precision, using light, sound, and environmental manipulation to guide the creatures away from critical areas. They set traps and barriers that were temporary yet effective, ensuring no casualties among native species. Livrin whispered in awe, "They do not just survive, they control survival itself." Hours turned into cycles. Humans explored deeper tunnels, mapped unstable zones, and neutralized threats. The Zarians watched in amazement, realizing that their civilization had relied too much on caution, observation, and theoretical planning. Humans combined intellect with instinct, technology with adaptability, and courage with precision. Suddenly, a massive tremor shook the tunnels. A giant predator previously hidden emerged. Its scales reflected the human lights like dark mirrors, and its eyes glowed with intelligence. The Zarians gasped. This creature was unlike any they had seen. It could easily destroy the humans with a single strike. Core did not flinch. Split formation, use the environment, keep it contained, don't engage directly unless necessary. The humans moved swiftly, using the tunnel's narrow passages to their advantage. They deployed barriers, traps, and sound emitters. The creature lunged, but humans predicted its movements, redirecting it into safe containment zones. Not a single human was injured. Livrin turned to Sorval, his voice trembling. They face death, and yet they remain calm. They anticipate danger before it reaches them. How can this be? Sorval shook his head. It is not calculation alone. It is instinct and courage. They are beyond us in ways we cannot measure. Once the creature was secured, humans continued mapping the tunnels. They discovered sources of the planet's ecological collapse, underground water streams contaminated by minerals, soil erosion from collapsed tunnels, and predator populations unchecked in confined areas. Core spoke to her team. "We stabilize the underground first. Then we can address surface issues. If the root causes are left untreated, the forest will collapse again." The humans worked tirelessly, using portable tools and drones to reinforce tunnels, reroute water, and monitor predator movement. The Zarians observed in silence, realizing that no species in their history could have survived such conditions without destruction. As night fell over Elythra, humans emerged from the tunnels, exhausted but triumphant. Rivers had been partially restored, soil stabilized, and predator populations temporarily contained. Native creatures cautiously returned to safer areas, guided by human interventions. Livrin finally spoke aloud. "Our civilization has measured, calculated, and planned for centuries, and yet these humans accomplish in hours what we could not in millennia. They are survival incarnate." Sorval nodded, watching the humans retreat to their temporary base. "We sent for help and they arrived. But they do not help as we expected. They save, they endure, they teach without words." Commander Core stood at the edge of the forest, observing the recovering ecosystem. "This planet has potential," she said softly. "It will recover, but we cannot do it alone. The locals must learn resilience. They must adapt, or this cycle will repeat." The Zarians, hearing this through the translator, felt a mix of awe and unease. Humans had not just intervened. They had demonstrated a philosophy, a way of life, a method of survival that was entirely foreign to them. For the first time, they realized that Elythra's salvation was not just in technology or intellect. It was in courage, adaptability, and action. Humans had shown them a new way of thinking, one that embraced risk, calculated danger, and turned it into opportunity. The night ended with humans resting briefly, their exosuits powered and sensors active. They would continue their work at first light, pushing further into the tunnels, mapping unstable zones, and preparing for larger threats yet to emerge. The Zarians, observing from their platforms, whispered to one another. "These humans, they are not just a species. They are a force of nature. If Elythra survives, it will be because of them." Livrin nodded. "We called for help and we received it. But this help, it is unlike anything we expected. It is raw, unyielding, fearless. It is humanity." And deep within Elythra's recovering forests, humans prepared for the next day, unaware of how deeply they had changed the Zarians, understanding of life, survival, and courage. The second cycle dawned over Elythra with a fragile calm. The forests, though still brittle, shimmered faintly with signs of recovery. Rivers flowed a little clearer, and small creatures began to emerge from hiding places to forage under the cautious watch of the humans. Commander Core stood at the edge of the central canyon, scanning the surrounding terrain. "Surface stabilization is progressing," she said, "but the planet's core instability is still a threat." There are underground zones that could collapse at any moment, releasing gases or predators we haven't seen yet. We need to act before something catastrophic occurs. Lieutenant Varn adjusted his visor, focusing on the subterranean scans. There are deep pockets of toxic minerals and unstable tunnels. Some areas have been hiding predators for centuries. One misstep and we could trigger a chain reaction. The Zarians watched from above, hovering nervously in their protective energy fields. They will descend into danger willingly, whispered Sorval. We would never dare enter without months of preparation, yet they do it as if it is ordinary. Livrin shook his head. Humans do not fear danger in the way we do. They respect it, yes, but they also understand it can be managed through action and adaptation. The humans prepared their gear, reinforcing exosuits, calibrating sensors, and checking portable containment drones. Each member of Core's team moved with quiet efficiency, understanding that survival depended on precision, cooperation, and instinct. Stay in formation, Core instructed. We move slowly, cover each other, and constantly monitor environmental readings. No one takes unnecessary risks, but we will not hesitate if action is needed. As they descended into a vast underground cavern, the Zarians gasped at the scale. The walls glimmered with mineral deposits, reflecting the humans' lights in eerie patterns. Stalactites hung like sharp teeth from the ceiling, and the cavern floor was uneven, dotted with toxic pools and collapsed tunnels. This place is alive, Varn murmured, scanning the surroundings. It reacts to disturbances. The ecosystem underground is delicate but dangerous. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the cavern. The Zarians stiffened, anticipating disaster. From the shadows, massive predators emerged, creatures larger than any encountered before, their glowing eyes piercing the dim light. Some moved with stealth, others charged with brute strength. The humans paused briefly, analyzing the threat. Core signaled with her hand, and the team split into coordinated positions. Some set up containment barriers, others used light and sound to manipulate predator movements, and the rest monitored air currents and ground stability. The Zarians watched, holding their breath. They are controlling them, whispered Sorval, without fear. Without hesitation. How is this possible? Core's voice came through the translator. We do not attack unless necessary. Every movement is calculated. Observe the environment, use it to your advantage, and act decisively when opportunity arises. A predator lunged at Varn, but he sidestepped instinctively, guiding the creature into a light-emitting trap that temporarily blinded it. Another predator tried to sneak up from the side, but a small drone activated, releasing a harmless but disorienting pulse that sent it retreating. Livrin whispered almost reverently, "They do not fight blindly. They fight smart with awareness and strategy. They survive with understanding, not just strength." Hours passed as humans moved deeper into the underground network. They discovered areas where mineral contamination was affecting the ecosystem above, causing plants to wilt and water to become toxic. They also found collapsed tunnels that had trapped predator populations, forcing them to hunt in limited areas and creating ecological imbalance. Core addressed her team. We'll stabilize the underground first. Reinforce tunnels, vent toxic gases, and relocate predators where necessary. The surface will recover only if the core is stable. Humans worked tirelessly, using portable reinforcements, environmental scanners, and containment drones. They patched collapsed tunnels, vented dangerous gases, and mapped predator movement patterns. Their efficiency astounded the Zarians, who had never seen intervention executed with such speed and precision. As they worked, a sudden tremor shook the cavern floor. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling, and hidden predators stirred. Varn's sensors detected an enormous creature moving beneath layers of rock, a predator unlike any they had faced, its size massive, its senses acute. Core did not hesitate. Split into teams. Use light and sound diversion. Keep it contained but alive. No direct engagement unless it is unavoidable. The humans moved with practiced precision, coordinating their actions instinctively. Small drones created barriers, sound pulses guided the predator away from critical areas, and temporary traps confined it without injury. The Zarians watched in awe, unable to comprehend the level of control humans exhibited over life-threatening situations. Hours turned into cycles. Humans discovered that the predator had been trapped underground for centuries, its aggression heightened by starvation and isolation. Kor spoke softly to her team. Every creature has a role in this ecosystem. We are not here to eliminate it, only to restore balance. Once the predator was secured in a containment zone, the humans continued their work, venturing further into dangerous tunnels, reinforcing structures, and mapping underground water systems. The Zarians began to understand that humans approach combined intelligence, courage, and instinct in a way their civilization had never conceived. Livrin turned to Sorval. Our methods rely on observation, study, and control. Humans, they adapt in real time. They survive by understanding patterns, predicting danger, and acting decisively. This is survival on a level we cannot achieve, Sorval nodded slowly. They are not just capable, they are exemplary. Perhaps Elithra has never seen true resilience until now. Deep in the cavern, humans discovered a series of mineral leaks poisoning the underground streams. The toxins had been seeping upward, contaminating the surface water and destabilizing plant life. Kor examined the readings carefully. This is the root cause, she said. If we neutralize these mineral pockets and restore water flow, the ecosystem can begin to recover naturally. It will take time, but it is possible. The team moved into action. They deployed neutralizing agents, redirected water flow, and reinforced tunnel walls to prevent further leaks. Their movements were swift and precise, balancing speed with safety. Meanwhile, surface Zarians observed every action, recording data and trying to absorb the methodology. Livrin's voice carried awe. They do not just fix problems, they anticipate consequences, adapt constantly, and protect life. Their resilience is astonishing. Hours later, humans had stabilized key underground zones. Toxic leaks were contained, predator populations were managed, and water flow began returning to normal. Small cracks appeared in the barren surface soil, allowing plants to regrow slowly. Kor addressed her team. The underground core is stable for now. The next cycle, we focus on surface restoration, predator relocation, and ensuring native species thrive. Elithra can survive if these efforts continue. The Zarians watched, silently acknowledging that their civilization had learned something crucial from humans. Survival was not just about intelligence or technology. It was about adaptability, courage, and action in the face of danger. Livrin whispered to Sorval. We called for help, and these humans arrived. They did not just respond, they transformed our understanding of life, risk, and survival. Sorval nodded. They are beyond our measure. Perhaps Elithra's future depends entirely on them. As night fell over the forests and caverns, humans rested briefly, their exosuits charged, sensors active, and minds alert. They knew the planet was far from safe, but they had taken the first critical steps toward recovery. Commander Kor looked at the recovering underground streams, then to the Zarian platforms above. They must learn from this. Elithra will survive not because of us alone, but because they embrace resilience, courage, and adaptability. If they do not, the collapse will repeat. The Zarians absorbed this quietly, understanding for the first time that their civilization's reliance on caution, perfection, and study was insufficient against the raw challenges of nature. Humans had shown them that survival required more than planning. It required action, instinct, and fearless adaptation. Deep within Elithra, the planet itself seemed to pause, as if sensing the humans' determination. The forest shivered with tentative life, rivers flowed cautiously, and predators retreated into safer zones. For the first time in centuries, Elithra's future looked uncertain but hopeful, a fragile hope anchored in the strength of beings unlike any the planet had ever known. The twin suns rose over Elithra, casting warm, golden light across the recovering forests. Birds, small, cautious, and fragile, began to sing again, their voices timid but full of life. Rivers that had once been clogged and toxic now shimmered with clearer water, flowing freely through vegetation that had begun to sprout in patches of green. Commander Ria Kor and her team moved across the forest floor, scanning for signs of instability and monitoring the native creatures. The humans had spent cycles stabilizing both the underground networks and surface ecosystems. The Zarians, observing from above, could hardly believe the transformation unfolding before their eyes. "This is incredible," whispered Livrin, his luminescent eyes reflecting the light of the twin suns. "The forests, the rivers, even the predators, they are beginning to find balance. This is life returning," Sorval nodded slowly. We asked for help, but humans do more than help. They restore, adapt, and teach without words. Their presence changes everything. Kor knelt by a small stream, testing the water's flow and quality. We've made significant progress, but we're not finished. Elythra needs a foundation to survive future cycles without constant intervention. That means teaching resilience to the local species, and to you, the Zarians. The Zarians blinked. Teach us? Livrin asked, confused. We are intelligent, we do not need teaching. Kor smiled faintly. Intelligence alone does not ensure survival. Observation, courage, adaptation, and decisive action are equally important. You have knowledge, but you do not act in the same way we do. You will need to learn. For the first time, the Zarians hesitated. They had relied on calculation, observation, and careful planning for countless cycles. Humans relied on instinct, courage, and swift action, and it worked. The realization unsettled them, but also inspired hope. The humans split into teams to continue their work. One group tended to the recovering rivers, reinforcing natural filters and creating small pools for the native creatures. Another group planted fast-growing vegetation in eroded areas, while others relocated predators to zones where they would not threaten the fragile ecosystem. Livrin and Sorval observed closely, taking mental notes of every action. Every placement of a plant, every redirection of a predator, every adjustment to water flow demonstrated the Deathworlder way. Understanding danger, responding with precision, and balancing life and survival. A sudden cry echoed from the northern forest. A young predator had become trapped between fallen debris and toxic runoff. Without hesitation, humans rushed to its aid. Kor led the way, assessing the situation with swift precision. Careful, she instructed. We do not harm it, but we cannot leave it to suffer. Move the debris slowly, redirect the water flow, and provide temporary support. Within minutes, the predator was freed. It hesitated, observing the humans cautiously before retreating into a safer zone. The Zarians watched in awe. They do not fear danger, Sorval said. They confront it, control it, and still respect life. This is beyond our understanding. Kor turned to her team. This is how Elythra survives, not by avoiding danger, but by understanding and managing it. The planet's life forms must learn the same. Observation and action must go hand in hand. The Zarian stepped closer, tentatively. Livrin extended his hand in a gesture of inquiry. Show us how to act as you do, he said. Kor nodded. Watch, learn, and then act. Instinct, courage, and adaptation are key. You will need to practice, but you will understand. For hours, humans guided the Zarians through various scenarios, redirecting predators, reinforcing unstable soil, and adjusting water flow to prevent flooding or contamination. The Zarians moved tentatively at first, hesitant and overly cautious, but slowly began to adopt the Deathworlder methods. They observed patterns, predicted outcomes, and acted with increasing confidence. Livrin finally smiled, a gesture rare among Zarians. I understand now. Observation alone is not enough. Action, decisive, adaptive, courageous action, this is what ensures survival. Sorval added, we have been studying life for cycles, yet humans have taught us in a single cycle what we could not grasp in millennia. Meanwhile, humans continued stabilizing larger predators, ensuring they had territories that would not disrupt the recovering ecosystem. They created feeding zones, safe corridors, and temporary shelters for young creatures. Every intervention was precise, measured, and designed to restore balance rather than dominate. Kor approached Livrin. Elythra's survival now depends on cooperation. You must take responsibility for your species and the planet. Guide native creatures, monitor threats, and intervene only when necessary. Humans can help, but we cannot be here forever. Livrin bowed slightly. We will honor your guidance. We will act, adapt, and protect Elythra. We have learned the Deathworlder way. As cycles passed, the forests continued to recover. Rivers flowed freely, vegetation returned in rich green patches, and predators adapted to their territories. Native creatures regained strength, and the ecosystem slowly achieved balance. Humans trained Zarians further, teaching them how to predict predator behavior, monitor water systems, and manage vegetation. Every lesson emphasized observation, courage, and action, the essence of survival that humans embodied. The Zarians, once cautious and hesitant, began to move with purpose. They reinforced riverbanks, cleared debris, and even guided predators to safe zones. They learned to act decisively, balancing caution with courage, observation with instinct. Livrin spoke to Sorval as they observed a predator hunting safely within its territory. We sent for help, expecting guidance. What we received was life itself. They have not only saved Elithra, but they have changed us. Our civilization will never be the same. Sorval nodded. They are extraordinary, not because they conquer, but because they survive. They endure danger, they adapt, and they respect life. This is a philosophy we must adopt. The humans, seeing the progress of the Zarians, prepared to depart. Their mission was complete. The underground tunnels were stabilized, predators managed, rivers clean, and forests slowly returning to vitality. Elithra was no longer on the brink of collapse. Commander Kor addressed the Zarians. Elithra has the potential to thrive. You now possess the knowledge and courage to continue its restoration. Remember, survival is not guaranteed. It must be practiced, respected, and balanced with care for all life. Livrin bowed deeply. We will not forget. You have given us more than aid. You have given us the path to survival. Kor nodded. And remember this, survival is not just about avoiding death. It is about facing danger, understanding it, adapting, and acting with precision. That is the way of the Deathworlder. As humans prepared their spacecraft for departure, the Zarians gathered around, observing their methods one last time. Every movement, every action, every decision reflected the indomitable will and wisdom of beings forged by harsh worlds. The ship lifted from Elithra's surface, its engines casting soft light across recovering forests. Livrin and Sorval watched, humbled and inspired. For the first time, they understood the true meaning of courage, adaptability, and survival. The forest shimmered in the light of the twin suns, rivers glowed with renewed life, and predators moved confidently within their territories. Elithra had survived the brink of collapse, and it owed its revival not just to intelligence or technology, but to the raw resilience, courage, and indomitable will of the humans who had arrived when the planet cried for help. Livrin turned to Sorval, his voice filled with resolve. We have learned from the Deathworlders, Elithra will thrive, our civilization will survive, and we will pass these lessons to every generation. Sorval nodded. The planet's future is secure. Because of them, and because of what we have learned from them, we are no longer helpless. We are alive, aware, and capable. The humans disappeared into the stars, leaving behind a planet transformed. Elithra's ecosystems continued to recover, the balance of predators and prey restored, and rivers flowing freely once more. Native creatures flourished, and the forest slowly returned to vibrant life. For the first time in millennia, Elithra's Zarians felt hope. Not a fragile hope dependent on observation alone, but a living hope anchored in courage, adaptability, and action. Livrin and Sorval looked over the forest one last time. They came as strangers, Livrin said softly, and left as teachers, not of words, but of life itself. Sorval nodded. And we will never forget, Elithra's new dawn is theirs and ours because we chose to learn, act, and survive. And so, under the twin suns, Elithra began its journey toward full recovery. The cries for help had been answered, not with caution or observation alone, but with courage, action, and the indomitable spirit of Deathworlders. Life endured, life adapted, life survived. For Elithra, and for those who watched it thrive, the future was no longer uncertain. It was alive, resilient, and filled with possibility.